It is another edition of Time About the Movies, and today we're taking a look at the one movie released on March 6, 2009, but it was a big one. It was one that everyone was expecting to be the next big comic book blockbuster sensation. However, let's just say it didn't quite turn out that way. Does that mean the movie's bad? Well, let's talk about it. This is Watchmen.
God help us all. The world will look up and shout, "Save us." And I'll whisper, "No."
So as I mentioned before, this was they first put this trailer out in front of The Dark Knight, and it got everybody excited because everyone thought this was going to be the next big blockbuster. You know, everyone was thinking that this was going to be the next big thing, and DC was finally going to go head-to-head with Marvel because of this, and Watchmen was supposed to be this movie that was going to spring that notion forward faster than a speeding bullet, you know, like Superman. But despite a lot of high buzz on the same level of The Dark Knight, and the thought that despite the R rating, this movie would be as big of a hit as The Dark Knight, that was not the case. Watchmen, while it wasn't one of the biggest bombs of all time, certainly wasn't the mega hit that Warner Brothers was hoping for. And back then, critics were very mixed on the film itself. I mean, keep in mind, this was also a movie that was dealt with a very troubling production history that dates all the way back to when the book came out in the 80s. I mean, they were planning to make this movie in the 90s, and they couldn't get it done. And so, you had all these different problems behind the scenes that would take way too much time for me to go into. But we finally got the movie in 2009 after everything that this movie went through. And what about the movie itself? Does it hold up? Has it gotten any better? Has it gotten worse? Let's talk about it. Let's talk about the plot. One of the Minutemen, a group of superheroes in the 1940s, the Comedian, played by Jeffrey Dean Morgan, is killed from a throw out of a plate glass window. And one of the Watchmen, Rorschach, played brilliantly well by Jackie Earle Haley, is on the case and goes to other members of the Watchmen to see if they know anything. The other members include Night Owl 2, played by Patrick Wilson, Dr. Manhattan, played by Billy Crudup, Silk Spectre II, played by Millen Ackerman, and Ozymandias, played by Matthew Good. Since the Keene Act was passed in 1977, superheroes were eliminated and forced to give up protecting the day and forced to live normal lives. And honestly, the film is faithful to the graphic novel for the most part. And as I said before, many critics criticized the film for that, which, I mean, that's something where, you know, you stay as tried and truthful to the graphic novel as you can, and all of a sudden you do it, and then people get pissed off at you for that. But how do I feel about the film overall? I liked it back then. I still kind of enjoy it nowadays. I mean, Zack Snyder does what he does with 300 and creates this very strong visual effects spectacular with a lot of good script writing overall done by David Hayter and Alex Tazee. And you got a very good cast involved in this movie. Not just because of Haley, but the rest of the cast are doing very good jobs in this role. It's a well-made movie. It can run a little bit too long. It's about 12 minutes longer than The Dark Knight, and like that movie, it doesn't really ruin the ebb and flow for me, per se, but it can get too long pretty quickly. One thing the movie kept reminding me of all things, was Back to the Future Part 2, which made me think that Watchmen set in the alternate 1985 that Marty McFly created after he left the sports almanac in the DeLorean in the hands, so it ends up in the hands of older Biff. For one thing, in both movies and in both alternate 1985s, Richard Nixon is still the president. And ever since I saw that movie, that thought never got out of my head throughout the entire film, thinking about that. the film does have a lot of notable flaws. The songs they throw in here, just because they're thrown in there just because it makes them feel so badly. I don't like the songs in here because they feel badly placed. Like, they have no context in this scene whatsoever. Like, how do you put a Leonard Cohen song in the middle of a scene where Night Owl and Silk Spectre have sex? Like, I mean, it's like a precursor to what he would do later on with Sucker Punch, but not quite to that levels. But it is kind of just like, really, you're gonna throw that in there? They just throw in random stuff in there too. Like, there's a scene in the movie where, you know, a pointless scene where Night Owl 2 is screaming no after Rorschach is killed. That's just like, you never buy into it because because you never felt like Rorschach and Night Owl never really were that close that Night Owl would have that reaction. I just felt like they threw that in there because, oh, we got to build the drama up here. And it was doing so well, and they throw that in there, and it's just like, there's a lot of stuff in the film. There's a lot of times when the film takes off from what it was doing beforehand. It goes in these random subplots that don't really make a whole lot of sense, but I mean, my final thoughts on it overall is that I still enjoy this movie a lot. I think it is a little too long, and it has a lot of notable flaws, but it's still a better movie than I think most people give it credit for. It's definitely a movie where you could tell that Zack Snyder wanted to make a really good movie based off of a really good graphic novel, and for the most part, he did the best he can with it. Couldn't have been better? Absolutely. And in fact, it would get better, as 10 years down the road, we would get the HBO miniseries Watchmen, which I think is still a fantastic show. And I think that's a much better adaptation of the graphic novel than the movie is. But I still think the movie overall is good. The acting is really good. The action sequences are still very fun. It's still a very well-made movie. And considering what Zack Snyder has done since then, this is definitely one of his stronger movies. And it, of course, will not be the last time he tackled big comic book adaptation in the DC world, but we'll eventually get to that when we get to Man of Steel. But for this being what it is, I liked it. I thought it was actually alright. So that's my thoughts on Watchmen overall. So there you go. That's my quick thoughts on Watchmen, and that wraps up this very short edition of Time About the Movies. So the next time we meet, we'll take a look at 4 more movies that came out the week after this, and most of them were pretty good. We have Dwayne Johnson in the remake of Witch Mountain, Race to Witch Mountain, which also features Anna Sophia Robb and Josh Hutcherson. Remake of Wes Craven's classic, The Last House on the Left. We have The First Time You Ever Saw Anything by Zach Cregger, along with Trevor Moore from The Whitest Kid You Know, Miss March. And we have one of the more underrated comedies that came out in 2009. Amy Adams, Emily Blunt, and Alan Arkin in Sunshine Cleaning. So we'll take a look at those 4 movies. That'll be coming up tomorrow on the show. So stick around for that. But until then, thank you so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please go ahead and hit the playlist on the next page. Check out the previous episode. And also, don't forget to hit the like, subscribe, notification button, and the bell. You get updates on when new videos come out, and we do post new videos here every day. So, with all that said, I'm off. I'll see you guys next time, and until then, as always, take care.